In this episode, Corey Davis and Dr. Rob talk about coconut oil manufacturing processes, oil pulling, and chemical-free coffees.
Yeah, and real quick, if somebody does like the benefits they're getting from taking their bulletproof coffee, the healthier version of that is just replace the MCT oil with USDA certified organic, in my opinion, centrifuge, and we're going to get into this next of the difference between dried copra version of coconut oil and then centrifuge from the coconut milk version of coconut oil. But my choice would be the centrifuged version of coconut oil in its whole form. It's free of solvents, free of any kind of possible pesticide contamination, which we can also talk about how you can actually tell if your coconut oil might have that, which is a kind of a fun little trick I like to teach people. And just put that into your coffee.
Value
Do a whole
right
food. As close to whole food as possible is always going to be the better option than a highly processed, refined, fractionated food. Oil is no different, except for potentially even more dangerous than something like a refined sugar, refined carbohydrates, things like that.
Absolutely. Great comparison.
Right? Okay.
Bang on, buddy.
Dude, awesome. So yeah. And so let's talk a bit about how different coconut oils are processed. Are you familiar with that system?
Not as much as you are. No.
Yeah,
so this will be a great learning curve for me too.
It's fascinating, right? So we can get coconut oil from coconuts, obviously, but there's two primary methods of how coconut oil is yielded or processed in order to get to you. First of all, there is what's called a dried copra. So this is whenever they chop open the coconuts. They actually, typically, this is done in Southeast Asia, places like Vietnam, Sri Lanka, etc., where they have a lot of farms, a lot of it's wild harvested, and they pick the coconuts, they kind of open them up, they allow them to dry in kind of open air, which can be problematic. They can become dirty, or even bird droppings and stuff have been found sometimes in tested coconut oils that have been done this way. Yummy, delicious. And then they can either cold press, which is oftentimes cold, but not as cold as you may think. It may involve some heating in order to get that stuff out. There's even a grade above cold pressed, which is hand pressed, which means they're actually using an old timey, like you would see doing the olive oil press, which is like this big kind of clamp that they push down on the kind of segments of dried coconut meat. So that's the ideal method. Anything that's even cold pressed, you got to be a little skeptical of that, because typically there is some heat involved in the process through the milling or what have you. And there can be oxidization. I keep saying there can be oxidation done during this process of the cold mill or the cold press. Probably not a whole lot. But even in a cold press, you can have solvents involved in that process previous to the cold pressing. It can still be called cold press.
Yeah.
Right? Let's say, for example, if you're a farmer and your yield isn't up to where you want it to be, it's very easy to then just soak that coconut flesh in some kind of solvent to really pull out as much oil as possible in order to make your yields happen. And this is done quite common with, especially done in these foreign countries, with solvents that you would never consider putting into your body. Neurological damaging molecules, liver damaging molecules, can be very detrimental to your health. And one way that I've learned that you can actually tell if a coconut oil might have been extracted using solvents is, and I don't know if you've ever seen this, Rob, but I've bought some coconut oils and I'll pick up the jar and I'll look at the very bottom and I'll see like a yellowish tinge or ring that's kind of settled at the bottom of the coconut oil. Have you ever seen this?
No, I've seen some dark, like black. And I have been told that some coconut oils, actually when I was working at Advantage Health Matters, they've brought in the Bali Sun coconut oil, which at least for Canada was a first. That really actually helped set the buying trend of coconut oil. I still to this day believe that Advantage Health Matters really started the buying trend for coconut oil in North America, but that remains to be seen. That was and it was mold actually at that point. They had a mold problem, but the yellow rings I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, so that's another issue is the mold. How this stuff is stored over periods of time can create aflatoxins, toxic mold. And even though there are antimicrobial compounds built within coconut oil, it doesn't mean you're automatically protected from negative microbes, right? So if you lift up your jar of coconut oil after it's sat for a while, especially after it's warmed up to room temperature and then so it's solidified and then turned back into its more solid state, you can sometimes see a bit of a yellow that's going on the bottom. That is typically, believe it or not, solvents used to process that cold press quote unquote oil. So you want to avoid that. And you can't really tell, unfortunately, when you buy the oil itself. Sometimes you can if it's been heated to, let's say, room temperature and then cooled back down. You can see this settling ring happen. So I would say I want to promote people buying their coconut oil from a different source altogether than cold pressed virgin. Just because, yeah, sure, there's a lot of people doing things right in that space, but you never know. From batch to batch, a supplier may not necessarily be consistent in this process of delivering you something that isn't going to be contaminated with mold or contaminated with solvents of anything that is a, let's say, cold press or virgin coconut oil, okay? Even if it's certified organic, that does not mean you're protected from solvents or molds. So no. The other process is called a centrifuge. And what they do is they actually, so this is where coconut milk comes from, is a centrifuge process where they will take that, the entire skin, meat, etc., and they grind it up into the milk, and that's where coconut milk typically comes from. And so they can actually spin that coconut milk and extract out the coconut oil from that process at low temperatures without having to go through all this other additional harsh solvent or other treatment processes to yield that outcome. So it's much more healthy for the environment, it's much more healthy for the processors, and you get to avoid that possible negative solvent situation. At the same time, the benefit is when they look at those oils, they're actually higher in MCT, they're higher in caprylic and monolauric acids, so they seem to be more of a whole food using the centrifuge process than to not. So it's actually a superior product from the research that I've seen. So I recommend that if anybody uses coconut oil, and oddly enough, one of the companies that is known to do the centrifuge process sells to you and I's favorite store of mega health food stores, the Costco. So I prefer using the Costco brands.
I do like Costco a lot, actually, for many products. Yeah, for sure.
Totally. So that's where I'd buy mine. It's just you make sure to read the labels for that centrifuged word on there. If that's on there, most likely it's going to be better for you than the other ones.
By the way, not for just for the record, not for supplements. I don't, in terms of other things like multis or herbs or anything like that, but certainly some of their food products are up there in quality.
Yeah, good point. I wouldn't buy, I'm going to do a special expose one day on what I would buy from Costco supplement-wise if I was there. And I've already begun the kind of preliminary look at it, and I'll tell you what, it's very scant. Very few things would be possibly good supplements at Costco. But their coconut oil, I stand behind that. I think it's a good product.
Absolutely, for sure.
But of course, anywhere. You go to health food stores, there's all kinds of centrifuge coconut oils that you can get from many different suppliers. But that's what you're looking for. Just watch for that term. And if you don't see it, you can
I don't see it very
often.
You have to call it.
Oftentimes they won't actually announce that just because people don't know that that's a buying
but it will become one. Yes.
Thing.
I think it will also.
I agree with you. I think that if enough people do tests on the standard cold pressed coconut oils, even USDA certified organic, they're going to find some stuff hidden in there that they don't want. And that brings me back to the bulletproof MCT oil or most other MCT oils. I don't know if you notice, but most aren't certified organic. So not only are you getting this possible solvent contamination, oxidative properties, but you could also be concentrating pesticides, herbicides, fungicides in that as well. And I have asked Bulletproof if they provide any kind of testing, third-party evidence to their consumers about the testing of their MCT oil to make sure that it's free of solvents or free of pesticides. And they basically shut me down. They just said, we don't have time to answer those kind of requests. So I'd say buyer beware on any MCT oils in general, but definitely with Bulletproof, they are not transparent enough to be responsible, in my opinion, to distribute a product if they're not willing to prove to anyone that it is what they say it is.
Yeah, I like certification. So organic is a big one, which I like a lot. But if they don't have, first of all, if they do have organic, but even if they don't have organic, having some sort of testing to show what exactly they are testing for so that they can make some sort of claim. And this isn't just Bulletproof. This is, let's say, any company that has a claim where their product is chemical free or toxin free. That's a big claim. You better be willing to back that up. You know, what are you actually testing for? So,
yeah, it's the bare minimum quality.
I mean, we're in the digital age now. I'm surprised this doesn't happen already, but it's coming. You literally should be able to go with your phone, scan the UPC code at any store, and it should, all sorts of information about that food should come up. You should see the certificate of analysis. People are going to demand this. It's coming. So,
yes, these companies would do well to dot their I's, cross their T's, get ready.
You don't need a sales rep to come in and tell you this. The consumer is going to be the all-powerful guru.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, they're empowered in ways we never could imagine. So
absolutely, buddy.
Okay, so we're both against MCT. We both believe using coconut oil for myriad applications. I like it for my skin and hair. I also do something called oil pulling. Have you ever tried this, Rob?
I haven't tried it, but the idea of it, I love.
Cool. So what's the benefits that you've been aware of?
Well, for anything, first of all, pores, opening up the pores, cleaning out certain aspects of the skin in terms of any, debris. Let's say if you have acne, for example, and you have a lot of pus, you have a lot of inflammation in the skin, and just natural sebum and just, I guess, dirt in the skin is sort of the simple way for most people. So oil pulling can help with that. I believe oil pulling might have anti-inflammatory benefits as well. So even in terms of wrinkle formation over time, but I'm not sure. I know it's been used for a very, very, very long time. So, and oils generally are very beneficial for the skin.
Yeah, so my definition of oil pulling is different than yours. What I know oil pulling to be is when you actually use oil like a mouthwash. I think it's an ancient kind of
inside.
Ayurvedic practice.
You're talking about inside the mouth. Yes.
Yeah. So I have a coconut
that is really oil pulling. Yes.
Yeah, that has a peppermint in it. So I'll put like a teaspoon in my mouth and I'll swash it around for 5 to even up to 10, 20 minutes sometimes. And it's kind of known as a traditional detoxification method in, I think, Ayurvedic practices. And I don't know if it does any detox, but it for sure makes my mouth feel like it's incredibly clean for a super long period of time. So I use that instead of a mouthwash, because most mouthwashes I find are just temporary antibiotic kind of chemical approaches to oral hygiene, where oil pulling seems to have even better benefits than that, because it lasts all day or all night. I'll tell you, you can wake up the next day after doing it at night, and you're going to have a different breath experience than you're used to. It's incredibly powerful. And who knows what the side benefits are. I think traditionally there is some detox, some lymph drainage perhaps through this washing of the mouth this way.
I'm very skeptical when it comes to detoxes and oil. I have to say, when I was in school, the naturopathic school, a lot of emphasis was placed on castor oil packs. Have you ever heard of those?
Yeah, that was done a lot through, what's his name, who was kind of this intuitive healer. Anyway, I'll come back to that later. Yeah, castor oil. I sold a bit of it in health food stores, and I never
create a castor oil pack. It's sort of very easy. I can't even remember how to do it now. I did it in school a few times, but essentially you rest this. I think it was like cloth. You dip in castor oil, and you basically put it on your abdomen. I can't remember now. I'd have to look it up. But people swear by castor oils, and there's literally no evidence, and there never has been for castor oil packs whatsoever that they do anything. And so I was just fascinated by this whole concept of oil. And I'm not one who usually bases my judgment solely on scientific backing, because the literature can be manipulated. But when there's nothing on it, I think it loses a lot of credibility in my mind.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that we need
oil
some
pulling from you're right, by the way. Oil pulling, I went a different direction there, but real oil pulling orally, that is it's really interesting, but I've never read anything on it. That doesn't mean it doesn't work, mind you, at all, but it's not something that I've ever done.
I'm with you. I can't notice or would be able to test what is in the thing that I expel out of my mouth after I slosh it around for a while, whether or not there's toxins in there, other than the toxins that may be coating my teeth, which is just bacteria that I may not want. All I know is, man, it makes for fresh breath. I love that.
Oh, man. Woo, baby.
Who doesn't want that?
No, nobody. Just to replace mouthwash in general, that would be a huge benefit. Yeah, that's
what I do. I'd say no mouthwash. Instead, if you can find them, regular coconut oil will work, or you can add your own organic peppermint oil. I don't know if you know this, Rob, but Oregon is actually the capital of peppermint and peppermint oil production. So
I got some growing in my backyard, by the way, buddy.
Check you out so you can make your own.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to, you can make an essential oil out of that, add it to some centrifuge extracted, certified organic coconut
distillery
oil
in the backyard.
Sell it to your neighbors. They want some fresh breath too. You don't hoard that all for yourself.
Steam distilled, baby. Steam distilled.
Rob, it's been awesome talking to you today about coconut oil and MCT oil and all things coconut related health. Thank you so much for your insights. It's been a rad time.
Oh man, my pleasure, man. Seriously, I've been looking forward to this all week. I love the idea of coconut oil because, as you know, I'm a huge coffee fanatic.
Yep.
And I love adding coconut oil to coffee and butter and all those. But when it comes down to the processing and the sheer magnitude of it, it's just crazy. I think people just have the wrong impression. It's such an important topic.
Cool. And now they got a little bit to chew on, something else to consider besides those who are selling. By the way, most of the research that you'll see on the benefits of something like adding a whole bunch of fat to something typically comes from companies that are selling you fatty products, right?
It's nuts.
It's how it is. So you got me and Rob here. We're going to help you not come from that perspective. We're coming from a perspective of trying to make sure you're the healthiest you possible. Well, so thank you for that, man.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Till next time.
And we're off.
And we're off.